All right, we live, we live. Seed talk, stuff to make the seeds walk. We're gonna have another interesting what I'm saying, show today. I got the professor, the doctor, Trisha, and I got Precious P. And you know who I am. I'm Logic I'm in. So we're going live on at least three platforms: YouTube, and two of my Facebook pages. So welcome. Hey, let's start tagging people. We know what we're talking about tonight. We're talking about Whoopi Goldberg and her getting suspended. And I want to see what other people think about that. You think Whoopi Goldberg should have been suspended? So let's get into the works of it, and let's tag some people. Join us if you would like to be on the show. Go ahead and send me an inbox, and I'll see what I can do. You know what I'm saying? But if you do come on here, don't be on here on no negative stuff and be trolling and whatnot. But I'm gonna tag some people here and get them in the room and whatnot, so we can start this conversation. Um, the question is, should Whoopi Goldberg have been suspended? I wanna see what people say in the chat, and I'm purposely tagging some people who are of the Jewish community just to get their feedback on what they think, um, because I think this is a conversation that we have a lot when we talk about the relationship between blacks and Jews. We have conversation with not both people in the room. And ironically, I'll check myself right here. I don't have any known Jews in the room right now. I don't think Trisha or Precious, identify as Jewish. I don't. Um, I might identify as like a historical or poetic sense, like if I'm doing a piece or something like that, saying that, I'm a descendant, I'm saying, of Abraham, who is the father of all, religions, the main three, I'm saying, except for like Buddhism. But, you know, um, but it's just interesting hearing this. There's so many things to talk about when we talk about Whoopi Goldberg and what was said. And I'll let Precious or I'll let Trisha go ahead and start it off and just recap and review of what she actually said.
I'm trying to find the actual article. I guess because it's been a few days since it happened. It's like it's hard for me
Right.
to find that statement that she said, so I can read it for those who don't know exactly what she said. I'm trying to find it for the longest, but it's like they may have taken that off too. They probably really trying to wipe her off.
Nah, it's up there. Um, I can tell you a little bit. The handful of it is that she said they were having a conversation, what she described as a very salient conversation, and I trust that. You know how conversations go, and then they take a little bit of it, and at some point in the conversation, she says the Holocaust wasn't about race. It was not a racial crime. It was a crime against humanity, and that was it. And she went on to explain how her as a black woman, that race means something different, to her. It's a unique experience because it involves people that are oppressing you that don't look like you. And based on her standpoint, Hitler looked like the people he was oppressing and killing. You know what I mean? And that's not an unreasonable argument. That's a very legitimate argument. How many times have we heard people say, well, Hitler, he didn't really make sense because he looked like the people he was killing and he did not fit the model or the prototype of the blonde hair, blue eyed, you know what I'm saying, Aryan person that he was saying is the superior race. So she apologized, and then ABC, proceeded to, what I'm saying, uh, and I think the actual ADL, Anti Definition League, which is like the voice of the Jewish community, they and I have some issue with the words I'm about to use. They pardoned her. They say it was cool, and but then ABC proceeded to suspend her. The View proceeded to suspend her for like 2 weeks, and they said that she was livid. That's one topic to talk about. Should she be suspended? But the other thing is, a lot of people are forgetting Whoopi Goldberg identifies as a Jew. So I'm like, when I bring that up, I'm seeing a lot of white passing, beige, light skinned Jews, European Jews saying, "Oh, she's not a real Jew." I even had a brother who's a Jew say, "She's not really a real Jew, though." I'm like, wow. So she's not a real Jew now? You know what I'm saying? Tank Talk Bob, welcome back. It's good to see you.
What's up?
Yeah, we getting into this, real quick. So we're asking the question: should Whoopi Goldberg have been, you know, been suspended? So I'll let I'll let y'all. Wayman says he wants in. Inbox me. I'll send you the I'll send you the link. Wayman, we can get you on here. And then Nigel Vaughn said, "Wow, I mean, a Jewish is a religion." Okay.
There's, a lot of people don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, they don't. They don't.
And there's no room on this, because if your argument is based in factual error, everything after that is kind of irrelevant.
Okay. Have at it. I mean, what do you mean? Break it
Well,
down.
well, I mean, for example, if you just look at it from a geographic standpoint, there's no doubt that the physical location of Judea existed at one point in time. So if you could have people from Judea and those people could have something in common, ethnically or genetically, then obviously being Jewish could be a physical disposition. And we also know through DNA evidence that you can identify this gene and it passes matrilineally. So like we actually know, like that's not debatable. That's something that we know in science, that it's more than just a religion. Now it's possible that it's an ethno-faith that is both a religion and a creed or nationality or ethnicity. But to say that it's just a religion is just not accurate.
Okay. So Judea is a biblical Roman and modern name of the southern part of Israel. The name is a Greek and Roman adaptation of the Hebrew Yehudah for the biblical Israelite tribe of Judah. So we got 12 tribes of Judah, and there are some black spiritual circles that go real deep into that. The Hebrew Israelites is one of them. A lot of y'all don't know that if you talk to the right Rastafarian, they claim that they're Jewish, or they are Jews or Hebrew, based on their linkage back to King Solomon via Haile Selassie, because they see Haile Selassie as a descendant of King Solomon. So Rastafarians, if you ask the right one, they'll break it down and say, "I'm a Jew too." And we know about the Hebrew Israelites. We know about them. And of course, we know what, my pronunciation may not be all that great, but Asnadi,
Ashkenazi,
which is the European, like kind of, I'm talking in simple elevator terms now. It's like
Eastern European,
Eastern European
Polish people, and then you have Sephardic Jews who, for me at least, from a historical standpoint, have always had the best chance geographically of being people of color, given that the Moors dominated Spain for such a long time. And that's also why, although Jewish people, and we put that in quotations for a lot of this time, Jewish people may not have sickle cell, but there is a similar thing that people who are genetically or ethnically Jewish get tested for. And so you can see,
Tay-Sachs.
Okay, so there's even genetic proximity potentially that is a good argument for that, but it's really interesting, depending, like you said, on whose history. And I think the biggest thing for me with history is that, like, there's a debate on whether King Arthur is real. There's a debate on whether Jesus is real. Like, it's hard not to mix fact and fiction over thousands of years, and that's the reason why I think, like you'll say, ultimately everybody's claims are probably equally plausible, but that's not what happens when we look at DNA evidence. So that's the part of it that's confusing to me.
Right. So we have we got a situation here. Can we just break down whether Whoopi was right or wrong, or if you don't want to look at it, because I don't like doing the right or wrong thing. I like to see how many different ways is there to look at it. Because I can say 6, you can say 9. Because I'm gonna go ahead and say this off jump. Y'all can have a problem with me if you want. Technically, one way to look at it, Whoopi was not wrong. She wasn't. Because he wasn't just killing Jews. And I guarantee you, if they weren't Jewish, they could have been anybody. He would have still been bent on killing them if it stood in the way of him ruling the world. So let me just say this. I'm gonna let other people pick up because I don't want to hog the space. If you don't know the history of the Holocaust and Hitler and what his motives were, I'm gonna give you real quick, less than probably a minute. He killed homosexuals. He killed Jews. He killed Poles or people from Poland, Polish people. He was out to get blacks. Did I say disabled people? I said that right.
Yeah, I had said disabled people. People don't say that yet. Yes.
It's anyone who jeopardized or compromised the integrity of the superior white race that he said was blonde hair, blue eyes, in which that he did not look like at all. It got so bad, meaning that he didn't bear the resemblance of what he said that he wanted to uphold, that people started to check his DNA and his genetic pool to say, does he have any Jewish relatives? Because he looks a lot like the people he's killing. That is what she was talking about. But to your point, Bobby, what you were so eloquent in what brevity is saying, genetically, you can point to a Jewish race. You can. You can do your research and say, I'm being real layman right now. I'm being real casual, right? And you can say those white people, even though some Jews don't consider themselves white, they look like regular white people. But what they're saying is there are certain characteristic, phenotypical traits, feel me, that set them apart. And I do see that. I do. When you look at some of these more protected and autonomous communities like in New York, these Jews over there, like you can tell they look different or unique, I should say. But then you got Jews that look like Seth Rogen too. You got Jews that look like Jeffrey Epstein and Bernie Madoff. My thing is this, it's like, then you got Jews that look like Drake. Then you got Jews that look like Tiffany Haddish. Someone said Lisa Bonet, right? Mm-hmm. My thing is this, is when it comes to the purity test, I don't see we giving purity tests to Seth Rogen's. But we give it to Whoopi Goldberg. The woman says she's a Jew. She was honest and said, I acquired the name because I saw that Jewish people had a lot of influence in Hollywood. If I adopted the name as a Black woman, I figured my resume will get a second look and I get an audition. I can prove myself as a Black person in this light-skinned, white, dominated, Jewish, whatever. She had her reasons and she was right. You can say a whole bunch of people are wrong, but Whoopi was right about that. And she says, hey, I still acknowledge the holidays. You know what I'm saying? I consider myself a Jew. I can pull the quote up. My thing is like, if she's a Jew, and I think that what she said was innocent and it's layered and can't just be summed up in a little bite. If she's Jewish, why can't she say what she said? And I feel like that points to a different the bigger point is that the erasure of the Black Jew. I mean, at what point are when we start talking about the oppression that happens, handed down from lighter skin or white skin or European Jews down to Black Jews? At what point when we point that out, are we going to get canceled or suspended? That's what I wonder. But I'll let someone else have the floor. But I want to start this conversation off by saying that he didn't just kill Jewish people, and I want us to keep in the forefront that Whoopi Goldberg identifies as a Jew. I know you wanted to say something, Trish. My fault.
I don't think it matters that Whoopi identifies as a Jew in this case. It's messing up.
Good. It froze for a little bit.
I was saying that I don't think it necessarily matters that Whoopi. Okay. I'm going to move my computer.
All right. Anyone want to pick up why Trisha is getting settled in? Because I can go on for hours.
Well, what you said and what I said in our conversation in the chat and what I said behind the scenes. The Holocaust didn't just stop at the Jews. It was coming for everybody who did not fit that narrative. Now, here's a fun fact, though. The whole where Hitler and the Nazis got that ideology to do it by race came from America. They saw how America was doing and treating Black people and exterminating Native Americans and adopted that ideology to back up whatever evil plan that they had going on. So I guess in the eyes of the Holocaust, I guess it was about race. But the thing, it didn't just stop there. It was coming for everybody. If you were Black, it was on the site. If you were disabled, you was on site. If you were the communist, it was on site for you. So again, as much research I had to do, and please, I don't watch The View like that, and things about the Jews do not live rent free in my mind like that. I will admit that. But after doing some research and reading up articles about her statement, I'm like you, I'm not understanding what she said was exactly wrong. And I'm trying to also understand, do people even know what being anti-Semitic, I don't know how to say the word. I don't know if anyone truly know what that means. That means the fear or hatred of Jews, which I didn't see that in that statement. I wish I could find the statement so I could pull it up, but I did not see that. So that's why, honestly, I don't think it's really much of that. I just think that they were trying to get Whoopi for a long time, and they just finally found that one key to just turn the engine and just drive all the way to the sunset with. That's what I really think that really came down to.
Okay. What were you going to say? Oh, I like that backdrop. That's nice, Dr. Trisha.
That's my book. Some of my books.
You need to have that backdrop all the time.
All the time.
Dope. Right, go ahead.
I just worry that. So first, when I thought about it, I don't think it matters that Whoopi is Jewish. I think what she did was she modeled how you educate yourself after you make an error. It's just like when, for example, Kanye said that slavery was a choice. If he would have run around saying that, but he's Black, so he said it, so it's okay. She realized that she said something that she needed more information on. She clarified. So she modeled what you should do. So I have no problem with her being addressed on what she did. And then she educated herself and then said, okay, I made a mistake, because people in her community were saying that she was minimizing the suffering of Jewish people during the Holocaust. And that's them speaking, because I'm not Jewish, so I don't feel comfortable speaking for them, how they should react. I just have the problem with the length of her suspension and the timing of the suspension. She modeled what everyone should do when you do something that's incorrect. I also think it's very suspicious. She has been the Black go-to person to help many celebrities absolve themselves of things they've done to the Black community, and yet they were all silent. So I think that's also a wake-up call for people that tend to be the go-to of, oh, you're Black, so absolve me up from this issue. that maybe she won't do that anymore. But yeah, she should be seen as, if she's a Black woman, she's also religiously Jewish. As a Black woman that has a Jewish last name, because I've had many times where people assume that I'm Jewish before I show up, or they read my resume. I've even had on an interview back in the Netherlands for a school when they were like, "Oh, you're not Jewish," that they were shocked because, well, your last name's Jewish. I know that it does provide different opportunities for you, regardless. But if you're not, so I'm not Jewish, so I don't feel comfortable speaking. But she did model what you should do when you make a mistake.
Yeah, I'm still. Yeah, yeah. Let me hit you with something real quick. That was dope. That was good. I like a lot of what you said. I'm still trying to figure out if it was a mistake or she misspoke, or she needed more time to clarify.
According to her, she said she misspoke. That's why I had read in one interview that she misspoke.
I didn't even notice that she said that. See, I think she misspoke, and I think she needed more time to clarify what she was talking about. Because one thing you can say about Sister and Elder Whoopi is she ain't no dummy though.
Yeah.
You know. Anyways, I want to get to Carmelita's quote here. She said, "However, as usual, Caucasians use Jewish DNA to restrict others from having access to resources. Therein lies the problem. To Jewish people, Whoopi is Black first, then possibly Jewish later." I agree with that statement wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Bobby, I see you over there doing your thing. What's up? What you thinking?
It's just there's so many different ways to take it. I think my initial reaction, and we talked about it in our little chat, is that I don't mind people asking a question if I think the question is legitimate or it's like a rational question to ask. So this is a terrible comparison that people aren't going to like, but I'm going to make it anyway.
Anyways,
because it serves a point. Rachel Dolezal, for example. Rachel Dolezal could have been Black, I suppose. Looked close enough, I suppose, to get away with it and to extract benefits associated with her features that could have been Black and makeup and whatever else that she was doing that people associate with Blackness. I at least understand where Jewish people would gatekeep the privileges of their community. And it's frustrating on the other side as a Black person to think, but they're also foreclosing the possibility of somebody being Black and Jewish. And you can have both of those truths. It can be reasonable for them to say, we don't want people to extract benefits from group membership they didn't earn, but it's also, like you would point out, racist or prejudicial at a minimum in assuming that certain people are not a part of it because of the way they look. And I think that those two truths can exist. I don't have an issue with somebody saying, well, the DNA says that the Lemba tribe in South Africa is Jewish. That's what DNA has told us. But that's one of the quote unquote 12, which is also up for debate. I don't know how they know there's only 12, but whatever. But let's just say there is 12. So far, DNA has suggested one out of the 12. So they're just saying 1 out of 12 is low probability. So, we're going to always cast doubt. But it's like there is 1 out of 12. So it is possible. But then again, that's still a low percentage. So is it a rational question to ask when somebody who doesn't look Jewish and in their phenotypic, in their sort of phenotypic way? Like, is it a fair question to ask if somebody's Jewish? Are they extracting benefits that they shouldn't be entitled to? I don't know that that's a completely unreasonable question. I don't know if that's unreasonable.
Unfair.
Huh?
I think it's absolutely unfair.
Okay, that's not what I said. I also think it's unfair, but is it unreasonable?
Okay.
but is it
Yes,
unreasonable?
absolutely unreasonable.
So when other groups know that there are benefits that come with their identity, and they see somebody and they think that person is trading on the identity for benefits, and they don't believe that they're a part of that group for whatever reason, are you expecting them not to ask the question? Or are you saying, why are you only asking the question when the person looks like this? That I understand, but I'm saying the question itself about gatekeeping to me is something that I expect from groups, because they're saying, just like Black people would often say, you don't get to extract the benefits of Blackness and have none of the negatives or none of the historical trauma. So I understand them doing that. I don't know that it's right all the time, but I don't think it's completely irrational or crazy. I don't.
My question was this. My question is this, and sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off at the last.
No, it's fine.
Oh, my question is this, and it's not a I got you. Is we like to have legitimate, sincere conversations. What does they look like? When you say they are gatekeeping,
right? It's the other 11. It's the other 11.
What do they look like?
It's the 11 of the 12.
You said what?
It's the 11 of the 12. It's the other 11 of the tribes out of the 12
that look white.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's a fact. No one's debating that. Nobody's debating that. I'm just saying, if the fraction is 1/12, right? Then you can acknowledge that it's possible. I think it's normal to say it would be racism if they're not willing to acknowledge the possibility. But it's also true that the probability is not high because of that number. But I don't know how they would know who's who. That's also a legitimate question from you. So I guess for me, I'm just willing to acknowledge that it's not necessarily a terrible question on the percentages.
No, I get it. No, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think that's a good point. Thank you for that.
I wonder if Lenny Kravitz is accepted, because isn't he Jewish?
He has light skin. So
his father is Jewish. His mother's not Jewish.
Yeah,
so
he's not Jewish.
He would be religiously Jewish, but not ethnically Jewish.
So that's my point. I'm glad Trisha said that. That's a great segue. I think it's good to keep when you don't have that dual dynamic. So I think the racial dolozone, you already called yourself out and checked yourself on it. It's not a good example, but I understand where you're going for it, because it's all social construct. That's the intersection that all of this shares. Mm-hmm. My thing is, I think it would have been better to align it with being Christian or Muslim, because you can convert yourself into any of the Abrahamic religions. If a brother came to me the other day, I know him as Jerome. He said, man, don't call me that. Call me Bishma. Call me Hakeem. I'm Muslim now. I'm not checking him on that. I'm not saying, man, show me Salat right now. I'm not saying, when did you take your pilgrimage? I'm not asking him, well, what time how many times a day do you pray? When's the last time you know what I'm saying?
Did you take the Hajj?
Or how many times did you fast? Exactly. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that to a Christian either. I'm not asking for, hey, let me see the video of your baptism. I'm not doing that to no Christian. You're a Christian. You accepted Jesus as your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. So when a Whoopi says, I identify as a Jew, and she's transparent of why I did it, let's just be real. She did it to assimilate. Oh, man, now she's cosplaying. She's not a real Jew. What do you think Black people are doing when they change, their religion to Christianity? They're assimilating. They're trying to get some privileges from a group that the white power structure and the right oppressive group, white supremacy, has told them, look, either you take this Christianity, or you take what comes to you for not being it. The same with Muslims. They're trying to escape the oppressive, religion of Christianity. They say, I don't want to be a part of a religion that is a part of my oppression. I'm a Muslim. They're real Muslims. They're real Christians. I don't care how many times they go to the synagogue, church, or the mosque. There's a whole bunch of pork eating Jews that, have a lot of privileges of Jews. They do. We're not doing no purity tests again on Jeffrey Epstein, Bernie Madoff, Seth Rogen. There's so many Jews out there that are light-skinned, European, or white. You know what I'm saying? And that's the problem I have, is that the administrative bodies are the European or white passing Jews. And that's the problem. When you got Falasha or Ethiopian Jews saying that they're given a vaccination or immunization, but they're really giving birth control. That's the highest form of white supremacy. You're giving Black Jews, African Jews, birth control so they can stop procreating, because what? You fear that they will genetically annihilate you and that the Jewish global community would look aesthetically different if you allowed them to procreate? That's a problem. But all that gets erased in it's all things like, oh, she says that the Holocaust wasn't about race. Well, there's also an issue of the erasure of the Black Jew. So I don't know why these light-skinned, white, passing, beige, whatever Jews didn't come to, her advocacy. Why not? Why not?
I think we all know the answer to that one. They didn't want that smoke either. I mean, you're probably laughing, but I'm giving it a whole 100. They don't want that smoke either. And who knows? They probably deep down felt the same way. But at the end of the day, they probably didn't want that smoke. And I'm going to make an ignorant comment. And Trisha, I did not know Diamond was a Jewish last name.
Oh, really? There are many.
I love that last name.
Neil Diamond.
I didn't think of Jewish. I thought of it.
There are many.
I'm going to hell for everything.
Patricia,
you're not going to hell.
Patricia, did you ever feel like, and I understand how many books you have behind you, so like your credibility is up here. But did you ever feel like you got an interview potentially because somebody did make the mistake?
Oh, I know I did.
And so
I had
that's
many cases where they said that they were shocked, or I'd see the look on their face and know afterwards, or they'd ask me had I converted, things like that. I know that.
And so it was sort of like, like you got G-checked, right? It was sort of like, well, I mean, we're okay with you having this benefit if you really are what we think you are.
Right.
But if you're not, then we kind of feel like this is a misallocation of resources.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, as long as I was respectful of, that's why, like I said, I'm kind of uncomfortable determining or speaking on their behalf. I know that we have the same issues in Christianity because I was raised, my mother was Catholic. Most Catholic people don't look like this. And I also know the only reason they were Catholic in my family was at Charity Hospital, which was a Catholic hospital in New Orleans. If you expected to receive medical care, you had to be Catholic. So that's why it wasn't like this great epiphany that they decided that we believe in the tenets of Catholicism. Is no, we wanted to have immunizations and treatment when we were sick. So they became Catholic. Wow. And I think that's with most major religions. We are not the face of the religion. And unless, we have our like separate religions, but in all of our religions, we need to deal with, let's say, supremacy and colorism, that you should look a certain way.
The irony of the Lenny Kravitz comparison is so good for this discussion because
I did, because I'm like, ain't he?
Well, what we know about it, though, like I was saying earlier, is that Jewish DNA is matrilineally passed, right? And so here he is, this light-skinned Black man who, in my opinion, is accepted by the Jewish community because he's light-skinned, but he wouldn't be ethnically Jewish because that only passes through your mom.
Right.
But
he did marry an ethnically Jewish woman. He married Lisa Bonet, and their daughter is Jewish.
Well, she's
So
She's
he
in.
also he married he married a Jewish woman and had a Jewish daughter. So, and with in a way, I do respect how they gatekeep matrilineally, because I guess it aligns with DNA. But it's difficult, like, because when someone has a father that is Jewish, then you're automatically, if you're darker. But I mean, Drake's considered, well,
I'm
Drake's
learning
mother is
something every
Jewish.
day. I am learning so much on
He's
this
lining
show.
up.
I didn't know she was Jewish either. I didn't know. Sorry, I never jumped on Lisa Bonet bandwagon. But hey, that's just me. I'm
Well,
learning
Sammy
something
Davis
new.
Jr. was Jewish too, but I don't think, no, he did not marry Jewish women, so none of his children were ethnically Jewish.
What I want to know is, I'm trying to get Wayman Earls on here because he always got something great to say. It's not working with his connection. But what I want to know is, well, we know the answer with Drake. He claims he's Jewish because it's a matrilineal, you know what I'm saying, connect, you know what I mean, or trajectory, whatnot.
And he's had his bar mitzvah and everything, so
right, of course,
he's also religiously Jewish.
Okay. So we said Lenny Kravitz, feel me? Is all these instances that we see where brothers, black men are claiming that they're or identify as Jewish, is that their mom is white? Is Lenny Kravitz's mom white?
No.
Roxy Roker was his mother.
Okay.
Okay, Helen from the Jeffersons.
She's from the islands, Caribbean. Yeah.
Cool. Just making sure. Okay.
That's what I'm saying is ironic. That's why that's the irony of their acceptance. It goes to your point about the inherent racism in deciding who gets in. Because its proximity to whiteness is close enough.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And see, and this is what, so like the situation, like let me go across religions, because when you isolate Jews and Jewish people, that's when you get in trouble. You know what I'm saying? So we see, if we were to do a Venn diagram, in the middle, there will be people of the Nation of Islam too, who get the same criticism, saying, you're not real Muslims. You know what I'm saying? It's like every single turn we get to, you're not a real Christian. And they say it a different way when it comes to Black Christians and the influence and the power and the control of networks and the syndication, and the mega churches and things of that nature, and how you have to align yourself, like what Bobby said, with the person with the closest proximity to whiteness. I mean, let's just be clear. Christianity, Islam, and Judaism is dominated by white passing people in the administrative ranks. That's period, point blank. Period, point blank. So, like, going back to the NOI, they say they're not real Muslims though. You know what I mean? To the point where Farrakhan had to change a whole bunch of stuff. He had to change their Ramadan, because they usually fast during December, you know what I'm saying? But they changed all that to make it align with Orthodox or Sunni Islam, because they were getting so much flack that you're not real Muslims. And that's the reason why Black people in America start all these, what they would call offshoots. We create the Hebrew Israelites. We create the Moorish Science Temple. They claim they're Muslims too. They identify as Muslim. That's like, our brother Doug Grant. We create the Nation of Gods and Earth, or 5 Percenters, which is my spiritual circle that I belong to. We create Rastafarians, which is in the Caribbean. We create all these different, factions and sects or offshoots of certain religion, because we're never accepted as the authentic, real deal Holyfield. And we still haven't discussed, like, like Tiffany Haddish, like, she ain't even like Sammy Davis Jr. or Lenny Kravitz. She ain't even claiming that. She claiming, straight Ethiopian Jew. By way of her father. So we got Wayman here, man. I'm gonna let him get his sound right, because I know he got something really
I
He
miss
got really
Wayman, man. I ain't seen him in a long time.
he got something really eloquent to say. So I'm gonna bring Wayman on. You've been listening to this. Turn your volume down. You've been listening.
Okay.
What's your point of view on this, Wayman?
Well, the question I have is for number one: has there ever been any instance where Whoopi's Jewish ethnic heritage has been called into question prior to this situation?
It's not even called into question. It doesn't exist.
Okay, because for her, well,
I know.
the reason why I asked is to say that she's what a Jew and what did they say, something like Jew and blackface?
Oh Jesus, that's a horrible thing to say.
Someone accused her of that, and maybe I had the phrase wrong or the quote wrong.
Okay. As far as I know, she's not. She's claiming it as a convert. Like she converted. I did read
Okay, so
something.
she's claiming it from a religious standpoint.
Yes.
Yeah.
From a question of faith, not a question of ethnic heritage.
Yeah.
Okay, so if that's the case, then yeah, we have to expect that she would be, if she were to open her mouth about a topic of this nature, shouldn't we, number one, A, should we expect it? And B, then the question becomes, is she wrong?
Yeah, I already answered that question. I think that her comment is layered, and one way to look at it is that she's wrong because she said it wasn't about race. But another way to look at it is that she wasn't wrong because it was more than just race. He was trying to take out anyone who was in his way.
Exactly.
I still think that he was mad at his art teacher. You know, he didn't succeed as a
Failed art student.
It's a lot of pressure on art teachers. I mean, like if you fail in art, student art, he might or she might grow up to be one of the biggest oppressors in human history. So, but here's hold on. I want to read this. This is what Whoopi said. Whoopi said in an article, I know I am Jewish. I practice nothing. I don't go to temple, but I do remember the holidays. Religion is a lot of work. It's exhausting. So keep it simple. I have a pretty good relationship with God. We talk. Hey, someone need to mute their stuff if they're not on because that music's coming through and that's not good for production. But that's what she said. So did you have something you wanted to add on to that, Wayman? You're muted.
You're muted. So.
Yeah, because that's the background music is mine. That's my daughter.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. You look at it. A lot of people look at this as the Holocaust as something that began as an internal dispute between Jews and other Europeans, and they view it as a form of European domestic racism. And domestic racism spent itself outside of Europe, thus resulting in what became World War II. But during the Nazi regime in Germany, that racism at first turned inward on itself, and that's what was referred to as the Holocaust. So one could argue that Whoopi was right in the sense that it was a problem that was started in Europe by Europeans, and not to sound cruel, but maybe should have been resolved in Europe by Europeans.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely expanded the conflict when saying that they self-inherited Israel, which caused all the problem with Palestine and whatnot, and then they only allowed a certain group of Jews to have asylum or refuge in Israel. Again, I'll bring up Ethiopian Jews. I'll talk about Operation Solomon. Like the Jews that are in Israel right now, the white passing and European Jews, they treat darker skinned, highly melanated, specifically Ethiopian Jews differently. Again, giving them vaccination and immunization, but it's really birth control. That's a problem. That's a problem.
I concur.
So I think that there's a lot of, throwing rocks and hiding hands in this whole thing. I think there's so much talk about Black people who have a poor relationship with Jewish people that it distracts us from the job that the Jewish community needs to do to resolve the oppression that they have of darker Jews, specifically African and Black Jews. But not only that, what Bobby was talking about is acknowledging more than just one of the tribes of Judah. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't agree with a lot of the stuff that the Hebrew Israelites say. However, I would love to have a conversation of why they say they're Jews and why they're not, because the reason why they say they're Jews is similar to the reason why white or light-skinned, Jewish people say they're Jews. So who's right? Who's right? Because I know for sure, based on documentation and research that is afforded to us, that Abraham, the father of all religions, the three main ones, did not look like the ones that are in the administrative ranks right now. Ham means black. Abraham. He also brought the black rock to Mecca. That's why they call him the father of all religions. Now, some people might say it's a myth. Some might say it's a creation story, but that creation story is rooted in a physical appearance that does not look like the people of administrative ranks right now, and who is qualifying and disqualifying people and giving purity tests to people to see if they're Jewish. That's facts.
The question to me becomes how qualified are they? Because, I mean, when I use the word Jews or Jewish people, I'm referring to white people of European descent whose culture, development, and political loyalty is European. Okay, and that political loyalty to Europe and the part that Jewish people still play in maintaining European worldwide power and not anti-Semitism has been the basis of the conflict that's been between us since the early 90s when they were cock blocking Black studies programs. And then they were calling Black people anti-Semitic even then. Through that, through hip hop. So, when we look at that and we look at this, attack on Whoopi Goldberg, and let's be clear, it is an attack. I think the main thing we have to understand is that this conflict has a wide spanning origin. And honestly, in my opinion, she just got her N-word wake-up call.
That actually might be really salient.
I mean,
that really might be it though, as it be like that too.
I mean,
well, here's the deal. I'm hearing from some people saying, how dare Black people support, advocate, and defend Whoopi Goldberg after what she did with Ted Danson. She was with Ted Danson. Ted Danson went in blackface. We already checked Whoopi on that. We checked Whoopi on that. Wait, hold on.
No, I'm agreeing with you.
And then they'll pivot and be like, she defended Mel Gibson after he said all the stuff using the word nigger and whatnot. Like, how can we defend this woman? And I'm like, that in itself is super, super racist.
It goes back. I'm sorry.
Because what you're saying is, what we should do is we should start profiling and keeping score with every Black person. We went over this with Antonio Brown. I said the same thing about George Floyd. We're not going to start sanitizing people's resumes and their criminal record and what they've done before we say, should we take this on a case-by-case scenario and should we defend it and advocate for this person? We're not doing that. Black people can't afford to do that when we have a system that's rigged against us. We all got some smudge on our resume. Next thing you know, You know, people be accusing me of something that I didn't do that wasn't, you know, that's not warranted. And then they'd be like, well, you know, back in kindergarten, you know, he threw Play-Doh at a kid. That logic. You know, in 5th grade, he gave a white person a wedgie. Like, is that really what we really want to do? No, we need to take things on a case-by-case scenario. We did the same thing with Antonio Brown. We had a conversation about that. We're not going back to her defending Mel Gibson or not, you know, calling out Mel Gibson. We're not going back to Ted Danson in blackface. We're not doing that. We're saying that she said something that was layered and wasn't contextual, and I think she misspoke. And we're saying that she didn't earn to be suspended, especially after an apology, for 2 weeks. Now, let's get this straight. Let me ask y'all a question. This is a serious question. Do you think that she would have got suspended if she said chattel slavery, the transatlantic slave trade, was not about race? It was about a crime against humanity.
No, but we're going to cut her up, though. But she's still going to say what she was.
Right. But why wouldn't she get suspended, though?
Because we're not the ones in power.
No, he's going for the punchline because she can say that.
Because she's
or maybe because she's black first.
That's the punchline.
Probably why she's her ass on the show.
Because she's black.
Yeah, okay.
Because she's black and she's not a Jew.
There it is. I was waiting. I didn't want to say it because I don't want to give them.
I'll say it for you, Bob. I know you got a reputation.
No, you got to say it though. You have to say it.
Are you satisfied now? You satisfied now?
No.
Absolutely.
I'll say it for you.
I want to ask a question though.
Yeah, let's do this. Someone else has a question.
Well, you made a point about, and we'll do the offshoots in quotations. When you talked about, you know, NOI, you talk about the Hebrew Israelites, you talk about the Moors, etc. And I'm sorry, I don't know the technical term for the group that Doug Wren is part of. So I just want to put that.
More Science Temple.
More Science Temple.
Yeah.
So you said that there's always a question of their authenticity. Is it fair, though, to at least acknowledge that those particular versions or iterations of the base faiths are not actually complete replications? Like they do have a certain point of emphasis. Like I remember I had a conversation with a Hebrew Israelite person because my cousin converted. And he went from being Kevin to Yesharla, and I was like, okay, why? So and he starts talking to me, and he starts dropping all these different historical dates and pieces of information, and all of a sudden, every person of note from 300 years ago was no longer white; they were all black. And I said to him, you know, I guess my issue with this is that it seems that all we're doing is we're taking another tale that was probably inaccurate because of the hegemony within it, because of the fact that it overprescribed certain identities in its story, and you're simply replacing it or coloring in the coloring book, so to speak, with some of the same characters. And I said, it's just as unbelievable to me that everybody was all black or all white or all anything. I don't think that the history of the world has ever been that lacked that much diversity when we talk about accomplishment, etc. And so for me, a lot of times I don't see one as more authentic or less authentic. It's just like, okay, your faith, you have your faith and your brand is black, and this person has their faith and their brand is white or Asian or whatever. And so I don't know if it's like an unfair claim to say that it's different or that it's inauthentic from the original form. Of course, you're going to say who's to say which is original, and I understand that argument. But the point is, I think there is enough variation because all these faiths are based on race at the end. That's the issue. So it doesn't shock me for a white person or for a Muslim in the Middle East to say, "Oh no, I read the NOI, whatever you want to call it, pamphlet, we don't have the same stuff. And it's like, well, you kind of do, but the characters just look different. And I would understand that critique. I would think, yeah, I mean, they can notice the differences. I don't expect them to say these two are the same thing. Are you saying that they should say the same thing, or are you saying they should acknowledge that they have a common ancestor?
Yeah, I'll go first. And I gotta mute you when you're not talking, women, and I'm gonna unmute you when I go. It would be good if you told whoever's in the room with you to turn the music down or invest in some headphones. But listen, that's a very good question. Here's my short answer. Acknowledge that you're different, but don't qualify or disqualify them for who they say they are. That's period. Like, we in a nation of gods and nerves. Like, when I see my brother, I say, peace, God. That's because I see the highest part of him. And then people are like, well, your brother's not God. Yeah, actually, throughout history, we've been saying that's what namaste actually means. You know, I submit and I pray to the highest part of you, the God in you. And so just acknowledge that they're different. You can say you don't agree with it. You don't bear witness to it for your personal practice, but don't say, nah, you're not really a Muslim. You're not really a Jew. Be like, oh, okay, I can see why you say you're a Jew, just like Rastafarians. It took me a minute to be like, oh, you know, like I said, you talk to the right Rastafarian, they say they're a Jew. And then they take me through the history. I said, oh, okay, I can see that. You're not a yarmulke wearing, go to the synagogue, you know, Hanukkah Jew. You're a Jew because you see Haile Selassie and King Solomon as your ancestors. So go ahead, Wayman. What were you going to say? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think, you know, because I want to address something that you had said earlier with regards to whether or not we should put, you know, basically put Whoopi Goldberg on trial for the things that she's done in the past, and how dare we defend her. There seems like there's always this qualification that white people have when it comes to who we regard as a part of our struggle or a part of our tribe, a part of whatever. Anything that we're doing, anything that we're dealing with regards that involves Black people, we have this overlord that says, no, you should do it this way. It's always like, yes, we want to help, but we want to help based on our standards, based on what we believe is best for you. And it has to stop. There has to be a line. There has to be a line, and I think we need to draw it as of right now. I don't understand why we haven't drawn it before, but I think collectively we have to say the line is drawn here, no further.
Okay, can you say that in a different way? What's the line? What is the line? What does the line say? What are
the line is, you do not determine who we consider worthy of our aid, worthy of our support. You don't determine who is Black enough for us. You don't determine who has wronged us. You don't determine who we should bring to justice, as far as our community is concerned. And as far as Black people collectively, we have to make that determination. And we have to stop allowing others to dictate the terms as to who we help, who we support, et cetera, et cetera. It has to end. If we don't have any control over any of this, then what are we doing this for?
I get what you're saying, Wayman.
Yeah, I agree with you. It goes back to that paternalistic parental relationship that the white supremacist and oppressive system likes to have with Black people. Like, they're our parents, and they get to tell us, hey, don't hang around them. They're a bad influence. You know, it kind of goes back to the parents just, you know, don't understand song by, you know, DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. You know what I'm saying?
It's just
if they were laughing, you don't need them because they're not good friends.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't get to choose who my friends are.
You don't tell me who my friends are or my enemies, or who my enemies are.
It's like they try to use us to destroy the Black figure that they don't approve of.
Right. And what they don't understand is we don't need your approval.
I agree.
Well, actually, some of us do. And that's the reason why that's the reason why Barack Obama disowned, you know what I'm saying? The one brother.
Jeremiah Wright.
Yes.
Reverend Jeremiah Wright. Yeah.
Yeah. So I we can agree to disagree on that. We do need your.
Well, with regards to the African liberation struggle, can we honestly sit here and say former ex-president Barack Obama was actually a participant in the African liberation struggle? I mean, come on.
No, because he was the president of the United States, and that's not his role.
There you go.
So if you expected him to do that, it's more of a
it's
more of an indicator of your beliefs and your understanding. And then what Barack did. Yeah.
Well, Sister Tricia brought up a comment that I want to address. She said we do need their approval, otherwise we wouldn't be so outraged by her being suspended. It's not so much, I don't know, I can't speak for anyone else. I'm not so much outraged as I'm not surprised. And again, to me, it was just another example of an N-word wake-up call.
Mm-hmm.
Whoopi got a wake-up call.
But she's
Megan, I don't know too much about the View, but I know Megan. What I do know of it, Megan, what's her name? McCain, John McCain's daughter. She's been saying all kinds of stuff for the longest and got away with it. Crazy stuff.
She has an NAACP award, so
Hold on. Okay, listen.
She does. She was. Both have NAACP awards. So.
Oh yeah, oh man. So just put her at the top of the list. Put her ahead of Martin Luther King and Malcolm and all of them cats.
Megan McCain.
NAACP anyway.
Hold on real quick, y'all. Hold on. We got to move into the plan. The reason why I said be careful, because I'm about to ask you a question. Because you got to be careful. Right. You got to ask facts. What has Megan McCain said that has been questionable that should have got her counsel like Whoopi did?
What was that? Dang, I remember that she had one. It was during that whole situation with was it Philando Castile or was it Sandra Bland? It was one thing where we were discussing the murder of Black people by police. Okay.
You don't remember what she said though? It's all good.
I remember she said something to the effect of, and that's where it was just another example of the criminal records of or the backgrounds of Black people being brought into question, as to determine who is deserving of our help. What? I'm like, hold on, chick. What right do you have to say any of that? But again, but I could also say on the flip side, that's an example of us having these certain discussions with the wrong people. Is that a discussion that we bring up on The View, where we're going to have where we're going to have layered views of what Black people do and whether or not they're deserving of being or people accusing us like who's that young sister, the talking head, the right-wing talking head? What is her name? Candace Owens. When she sits there and piggybacks and gives them permission to say certain things and say, oh, well, she said it. She basically said we celebrate the worst elements of our neighborhoods or our communities, something to that effect.
Yeah.
We have too many hands in the pot, is basically what I'm effectively saying. And when it comes to the Black liberation struggle, and we've allowed too many people into the conversation, when this should be a conversation that we should be having, and these should be actions being taken on our behalf for Black people by Black people. And when it comes to Whoopi, outraged? No. You should have shown that. You surrounded yourself with mostly European women on a public forum with the woman right there next to you, who I believe is the red-haired woman a Jew as well? Is she Jewish?
Yes, she's Jewish.
So okay, so you had to know.
Wait a minute. That's not fair what you're doing right now.
How's it not fair?
You're saying that she should expect it to get reprimanded and suspended because she works in a workplace with a whole bunch of white folks. That's not fair.
It may not be fair, but is it about fairness or is it about accuracy?
At some point, fairness has to be a criteria of whether someone should or should not do something and how they should be treated, or we wouldn't even be having this discussion. We can't just say at the end of the day, well, that's what you get for being around those white folks.
No, you should have known. And if you have the mentality of we're behind enemy lines, then you'll have a certain expectation and you'll act accordingly. When you understand you're behind enemy lines, that we've been behind enemy lines, and we're in someone else's land, always have been, and the only difference is that the chains are mental now and spiritual, as opposed to being physical.
And financial.
And financial. And political.
Yeah.
So if we understand all of this, then we need to know that if you're going to say something to the effect that the Holocaust was not about race, you cancel, done.
Speaking of Joy, has she came for Whoopi's defense that she been suspended?
Who's that?
Joy.
Oh, I don't know.
Joy. Has she came for her defense at any time?
Have any of them chicks come to her defense? Has Anna Navarro come to her defense? We ain't heard nothing. We ain't heard anything from. We ain't heard word one from those chicks at all.
But let's be blunt. When anybody who says anything about the Jewish people that's not in high regard or put them on a high pedestal, you might as well go ahead.
You might as
well go ahead and take that L, because that's exactly what's going to happen. Look what happened to Nick Cannon. Look what happened to Mel Gibson when he said that the Holocaust didn't exist, when he made Passion of the Christ back in the mid 2000s. It was done for him. His career ain't never been the same ever since. Ever since. That was it for him.
Comfortably, Your Honor.
Well, saying that the Holocaust didn't exist that's just foul.
Yeah, that was his statement. Something that mixed up that in. Now that right there is a better example of
anti-Semitism. Yeah.
I feel like when you are dismissive of legitimate claims of how certain Jewish administrative leaders and powerful people, certain, not all of them, certain, align themselves with white supremacy beliefs, and it gets dismissed. That's a form of bullying, man. It is. There's no way around it. It is. When you're being dismissed, say, "Hey, man, this ain't cool." Like like this black woman felt like she had to change her name to get a job in, a franchise in an industry that has a lot of Jewish influence. So, and then if you start taking away people's pay, jobs, and opportunities, instead of teaching them and counseling them on, what it is to be Jewish or Hebrew, that's a form of bullying too. That's a form of racism. That's a form of discrimination. Like I said before, I'm waiting for the time when a black person comes out and is very adamant about the discrimination of black Jews by lighter skinned and white Jews, when that person gets canceled or suspended or reprimanded for even saying that. Because I've had conversations with white and white passing Jews where it's very hard for them to even admit that certain gatekeeping happens, that racism happens. Oh no, it doesn't happen. We got parenting 101 over there. Let's move on. Let's go. What's the plan of action? Based on our conversation today, what's the plan of action with this whole thing with Whoopi Goldberg and Wayman and his parenting plan?
Well, I guess I'll go first.
Okay.
I have said this when this first broke out. My fellow black people, we could take some notes on how the Jewish community gatekeep their shit. We could take a lot of notes of how they run their game. I swear, if we gatekeep at the same impact and level of the Jewish, I am telling you, I think we've been a force to reckon with. A lot of people gonna get mad at me for this, for saying it, but it's true. We need to start taking some notes. Secondly, I do kind of wonder though,
Never happened.
when Whoopi returns, is she gonna come back with her Goldberg name or is she gonna go with her real name? Because obviously that Goldberg name didn't save her from what was said. So come back as Miss Johnson, Whoopi. I'm looking forward to see that happen. I still support Whoopi. I ain't mad at Whoopi at all. I still love that woman. I ain't gonna cancel her like that.
Yeah,
And this is also another reason I know a lot of people disagree with me. And that's another reason why I don't try to, how you put it, I don't try to tell people of other ethnicity how to feel or how they should run how they want to run their team. I don't make it my place, just like I don't like it if they try to come to our race and tell us what we should and shouldn't be doing. So that's why I said stuff like that. I wish Whoopi I don't understand she identified as Jewish, but I said, man, Whoopi, that was one conversation I would just opt straight out of and just let them say whatever they want to say. That's just me. But
yeah,
that's my point of action. We should take notes from how Jewish people run their game.
Yeah, I like that. That's a great topic for a future Seed Talk. Should Black people gatekeep, their race like other, communities? But let me say this: there is a small community of Black people that are already doing gatekeeping, but those people are the kind of people that say Bobby's not really Black. Because Bobby's got a white mom. And only the real Black people in the world come from Black mothers. So it's already happening. And I'm going to go ahead and go on the record, even though I like to give Bobby a hard time. Bobby is a Black man.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
And Bobby's with a Black woman.
I know. Ensuring they'll have a Black child. Who knew?
Yeah, that child going to be pretty much going to be Black as hell.
Hey.
So
Precious is over there dropping subliminals, stirring the pot. She got.
I'm not dropping anything.
Yes, you are, because you're and he's married to a Black woman. No, but Precious, we know you have a little issue with Black men who are married to white women.
Whoa.
As well we should.
All right.
What did you say, wait a minute?
I said, as well we should.
Sorry, Dad. Sorry, Dad. Trisha, they're mad at you too.
I guess. Oh, well.
Oh, man. Brother Bobby, it's in the can. What can we do? It's in the can.
I'm already here. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm
here.
It's a wrap. It's a wrap.
I just want to say before we move on to the next person doing the plan of action, the way that Dr. Trish be looking at us, man, it's so funny. Cracking just, she'd be like, these guys are so immature. My bad, big sis.
That's okay.
Next. Yes, Jeremy. This is live. We'll have you on for part 2. We'll have you on for part 2. It's live.
Funny.
Who wants to go next? Plan of action.
What is that background? You gotta turn that off, man.
I know, man. That's our fellow Pisces, man. His parenting plan is
killing us. I want to hear from the doctor.
Oh gosh, from the Aries, right? No. Yeah. Oh boy, plan of action. While Precious was talking about, gatekeeping, I'll just put it. I don't think that would ever work because we're too many of us are aligned with valuing Europeans and what they think of us. So I don't think we'd ever be able to fully gatekeep. But it would be nice to try, I guess. I think a plan of action is first looking at what Whoopi did in terms of modeling what you do when you misspeak or misunderstand or say something that is inaccurate, and then you take accountability for what you said. And she's taking the repercussions of being accountable for what she said. So I respect her completely for that. She's been in the business a very long time, and I personally think, as I said when I was talking to Logic and Pretz, I think she wanted a break personally and knew this is one way to give yourself time off, because she's been in this industry a very long time, and she definitely knows from her experience the repercussions of saying things to that are inaccurate. But again, she stood up and she took accountability, and I respect her for that. I don't think she'll be changing her name though or anything.
Right.
I mean, The Rock did it. I guess he's not The Rock. He's Dwayne Johnson. He took Johnson, but he's in all kinds of trouble too for his alignment with Joe Rogan, as well as some very problematic things he said about trans people.
I don't even know who that is. I don't even know who that is. So I guess I'll learn.
You don't know who The Rock is?
No, I know who me and him that got the same birthday. I know who he is. I'm talking about Joe Rogan dude. I'm talking about him. I don't know who that is. Who is this character?
I think he modeled how you should not apologize. So the two juxtaposed, and mind you, he does not have a suspension. She has a suspension. Gee, I wonder why that is. It might have to do with protection of the lack of melanin community. That's all. Yeah.
Yep. Well done. Well done. Well done. Other plan of actions. What's that? What we got? What we got, Bobby? Or you want me to go?
The Joe Rogan comment really struck me because it's kind of what I was thinking about. There's a couple of different ways to look at the Rogan situation. Like, one person might say it's a step in the right direction away from cancel culture, and then another person might say it's a step in the wrong direction because it's not. There's no sense of accountability and there's no candor in the apology at all. There's no apology. But when I look at what was happening with Whoopi Goldberg, I think it's a good thing that she didn't get terminated. I think that termination was definitely on the table. We can compare like what she's surviving here compared to like Nick Cannon, for example. You probably, if she would have said I'm Jewish, that probably would have got her in more trouble if she would have just actually stated out loud that she was Jewish or a real Jew in the sort of Nick Cannon in light of like a Nick Cannon type of comment or Hebrew Israelite type of comment. I actually guarantee you that would have resulted in termination because it would have been an attempt to claim identity as a darker skinned Jew. And I think that would have got her in more trouble than making a statement that is questionable or suspect with regard to historical accuracy. And so the lesson that I take from it is that it reminds me a lot of Plessy versus Ferguson. Because in Plessy versus Ferguson, what happens is there is a man who is like essentially 1/16 black who is riding the train, and I think this is in Trisha's home state or somewhere down there in Louisiana. So even less black looking than me, no cornrows, nothing like that, no scrapebacks. And he's on the train and he rides the train every day. And then what ends up happening is that somebody on the train, one of the people who controls the individual booths, doesn't know that he's black, but finds out from a third person that he might be an octroon or whatever the technical term was for somebody like him. And this train person removed him from the train, not because he knew he was black, but because that he heard that he might have been. And the whiteness as a property value is so strong that a person that does not, that actually looks and is white for all appearances, even at the mere possibility of being black, was to his detriment. And that was legally codified in this country, that you could not pretend to be white. That was illegal. And so in the context of that, it shows me that Plessy versus Ferguson is alive and well. And people need to really be careful about trying to derive benefits that they aren't necessarily entitled to, or people think they're entitled to. And that's what I would leave it at.
That was pretty good. That was you. I feel like you would have got me on that one if I had us wove that into there like that. You'd be like, oh yeah, you're just setting us up. Just lob them up, Logic. And while you dunk it yourself. That was good though, Bobby. That was real good. I never looked at it that in that way, that for Whoopi Goldberg, a black person, to align herself with being a Jew is like her aligning herself with the administrative ranks, which is white or light skin or passing, white passing. And so if you do that, that's just as much as a crime as saying anything against about the Holocaust or about Jews or whatever. Is claiming to be white when you're not, or white passing when you're not. Yeah. Wayman, you want to go next, or I can go? You ready? Oh, okay. Let me unmute you.
All right. You know what? Keep it up. I'll show you some parenting planning. All right. Plan of action, quite simply, Kujichagulia. Self-determination.
All right.
And I say that with regards to, again, how we let others outsiders to our community, outsiders to our struggle, understand unequivocally that you have no say in how we operate. You have no say in who we have alliances with. You have no say in who our enemies are. You have no say in who we protect. You have no say in who we cast out. You have no say whatsoever. If you want to truly call yourself an advisor or an ally, then you'll stay out of our way. Any advice you want to give, if it's truly advice without strings attached, we'll take into consideration. But outside of that, no. Yeah. You have no say whatsoever. And it's imperative that we draw this line. It has gone on far too long where we allow others to dictate to us who is within, who our friends are, who our enemies are, who is a part of our community and who is not. If we don't take this stand now, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren will look at us and think, shame.
Thank you. I want to say Carmelita's plan of action says continue to call Jewish people out on their hypocrisy while also speaking out and actively fighting against discrimination that marginalized groups suffer. That's well said. My plan of action is really short and sweet, man. Educate yourself on what it is to be Jewish, and Hebrew. A lot of people will say there's a difference between a Jew and someone who is Jewish. And educate yourself on all the different manifestations of people who identify as Jewish, Hebrew, or Jew. As Bobby said, educate yourself on the 12 tribes of Judah. What does that mean? And educate yourself on the Holocaust. Like, what was the criteria? Do deep dives before you start saying, things that aren't necessarily historically accurate. You know what I mean? And I just really think unless you got some concrete proof, you need to stop saying things like the Holocaust wasn't real and it didn't happen. You know what I mean? But just educate yourself. Educate yourself. And I like everybody's plan of action, and I would even include some of, Wayman's, plan of action in mine, man. It's like, we ain't got to get permission from nobody to advocate and support Black people. Period. You know what I mean? And so, the next Seed Talk is going to be good because there's so many things we need to talk about, man. We need to talk about this Bill Cosby documentary. We need to talk about gatekeeping. Precious didn't, throw a little light shade, and no pun intended. We need to talk about interracial relationships.
Well, I did not throw no shade. I just y'all took it there. I wouldn't think about
it. I know. I'm just messing with you.
I'll get my whiteboard out for that one.
But we need to talk about Joe Rogan. We need to talk about Joe Rogan. We need to talk about the conversation that Nicki Minaj and Kevin Samuels had. I think Trisha and Precious talk about that. In their lives.
Kevin Samuels, the new relationship guru.
Who?
New.
Kevin Samuels, the new relationship guru.
He's kind of new.
Yeah.
He's new within the last 2 or 3 years. You know what I'm saying? But he's been doing stuff for the last 10, 12 years as an image consultant. But anyways, let's not get distracted. There's a lot of stuff that we need to cover. Please share this this broadcast, C Talk. If you want to be on the show, inbox me. Wayman, we need to get you on more often, man. We need to talk.
I've been so busy, and man, I've missed so many of you. I've missed so many of your podcasts, and so many of those that I've missed, I've watched later, and I'm just like, oh my god! So I saw this one. I said, I got to get in on it.
Yeah,
I miss you, Wayman. I miss you so much. You need to come back on here.
And Bobby, I don't care. I embrace you, brother. I embrace you, brother.
Here we go. We need, before we have another podcast for production reasons, we need to have your DJ to sign a contract that they were going to be on the music. That is a must. All right, C-Talk, share this, comment. We're going to leave it up. We're going to rebroadcast this. Tune in next time. We love y'all. Hey, man, stay educated. The more prepared, the less scared.